Hey, friends, it's Diane Wingert, host of the Driven Woman Entrepreneur podcast and this live stream. Today, I'm going to be talking about how to see your creative idea through from start to finish. This is one of the things that I see most frequently with creative people who decide to start their own business. And it's a problem that actually can be fixed. Let's start from the very beginning. Many people have so many creative ideas that they simply don't know which one or ones to implement. You will see this in new business owners who keep changing their niche, keep changing their target market, keep changing their offer or what they're actually putting out into the market. Now, there's nothing wrong with having lots of great ideas. I have great ideas. I have always had great ideas. And it used to be a real problem for me to confine myself to just one great idea. In fact, I really hated it. I really resented it. I found it really, really annoying that I had to limit myself because creative people don't like constraints. We like freedom. What ended up happening over the years is that with one creative idea after another, I didn't want to do any of them because I continued to indulge in the fantasy that the best idea had yet to show up in my brain. And all I had to do was wait a little bit longer for an even better idea. If you identify with this, you are definitely not alone. In fact, I see it with many of the clients that I work with now. I like to say that if you are an ideator, if you are a person whose brain is literally an idea fountain, an idea factory, an idea machine, and you just keep having one great idea after the next, in and of itself, that's not a problem. In fact, if it is a problem, it's a problem that many people would love to have because there are other people who would love to have their own business, but they can't think of a single idea to build that business around. Wouldn't it be great if there was like a matchmaking service for people who had too many great ideas and those who just needed one? You could match them up. In fact, it's one of the things that I really enjoy about being a business strategist and coach because I can help other people hone in on their great ideas. The truth is, unless you have a huge team and a huge budget, you're simply going to have to decide which idea to implement at a time. Now, once you've got something fully implemented and automated or handed off to somebody on your team or even outside your company to market and sell and provide the services, you can move on to the next one. But it's really, really hard to implement several ideas at once. Our brains just don't really work great that way. On this week's episode, this is the first week of April, 2023. If you haven't listened to this week's episode of the Driven Woman Entrepreneur Podcast, I invite you to do so after watching this live stream. If you identify with being a creative visionary, someone who actually has big ideas, big dreams, a big vision for your business, but you can't seem to get out of the starting blocks, or you got stranded at some point along the way. You had a plateau and you kind of got stuck there. Many creative visionaries find it difficult to execute because these are literally different abilities, different skills, and different ways that our brains work. I used to think that there were creatives and there were implementers. There were the visionaries and there were the operations people, and that they couldn't be the same person. You might believe that too. But if you are that creative visionary, if you are that person who either has one really great idea with a bunch of moving parts or many great ideas, and you're not implementing any of them because you either don't know which one to hone in on, or you don't see yourself as an implementer, or You simply need someone to lay out the roadmap for you. There's hope. There are so many ways to resolve this problem, but it's awfully hard to do so on your own. Now, I suppose if you had a bunch of great ideas and you didn't know which one to develop in your business, you could write each idea on a card, put them all face down, blindfold yourself, play eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and just pick one at random. You could do that. You might even think that's a fun idea. And if they're all equally great ideas that all have relatively equal market potential, profitability, and time to implement, why not? I don't love that idea because your brain is going to keep questioning after the fact. In reality, if you are an idea person, at some point, you will need to choose and commit. Now, that's not to say that you won't have doubts. I think the more creative you are, the harder it is to commit to one thing because your brain is going to keep looping back and reminding you, yeah, but what about? Well, what if that isn't the best idea? What if one of the others was really better? So you have to keep closing the loop because your brain is going to keep saying, what if, what if, what if, what if? Many highly creative people also are perfectionists and overthinkers and ruminators and second guessers. This all becomes quite a cluster F in your brain that delays you from getting that product or service or offer out in front of people who can buy it, who can pay you, who can hire you, who can work with you, and continues to reinforce the notion in your own mind that you are an idea person, not an implementer. On this week's episode of the podcast, it was a client success story with a client I now consider a friend, Jensina Dyer. She is the founder of Colorado Lash Company. Now, Jan has a very interesting history, and I think it's actually a very common history. She is an idea person. She is a visionary. Even while she was an ophthalmic tech working with doctors in the medical field, she had an idea about eyelashes because she was working with the eye. Even then, the other ophthalmic techs that she worked with thought, why do you even care? Just do your job and go home. Why are you so obsessed? But creative people often are kind of obsessive. We get captivated by an idea. We become infatuated with an idea. We fall madly in love with an idea, and we want to make that idea a reality. But when you don't have confidence that you can pick and stick, that's what I call like choosing one of your brilliant ideas and committing to it and seeing it through, or you don't see yourself as an implementer, you can just continue to indulge in fantasizing about what it would be like. But as time goes by, it is inevitable that you will see someone half as talented, half as experienced, half as skilled take off and run with your idea because they see themselves as implementers. One of the things that Jensina Dyer did to try to get her big vision implemented was to develop a business partnership. She was in this business partnership for 3 years. And here's the thing. She saw herself as the creative. She did not see herself as someone who could implement. So she partnered with someone who wasn't as creative, but was an implementer. I've seen many entrepreneurs do this. In fact, there are other business coaches who encourage people to do this. They'll say, if you're the creative visionary, partner with an implementer, and that's how you'll be successful in business. Sometimes it works. There's a company I'm doing business with right now, and it's very clear to me with the two co-founders who's the creative visionary and who's the implementer. And if both parties are fairly compensated, there is an equal distribution of the work, and they're both working in their zone of genius, and they love it, it can work. It can work. But there's a reason why business partnerships are the least stable form of business. You're better off as a sole proprietor or a solo LLC or as a corporation than you are as a partnership. Most partnerships fail. They probably have an even worse track record than marriages, which are about 50% of those fail. Why is that so? In my opinion and my experience working with founders, oftentimes the idea person starts to feel like the implementer is their boss. And people who start a company, people who are entrepreneurial, whether they be, first-time entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, we don't like being told what to do. We don't like having a boss. It's one of the reasons why people choose to be self-employed. They don't want to have a boss. So if you are a visionary and you have a business partnership with an implementer because you don't think you can implement, you think you need that person to see your ideas through, don't be surprised if you don't start feeling like that person is your boss. Another thing I often see is many, if not most entrepreneurs have ADHD traits. They may or may not have a diagnosis of ADHD because when it comes to ADHD, it is not the traits that get you the diagnosis. It is the impairment as a result of those traits. Now, is having so many ideas that you can't keep track of them an impairment? Seems to me you can have an assistant or some digital systems for that. Is having a great idea but not being able to see the steps to see it through an impairment? It depends. Do you need a business partner? That's like a marriage. You would literally have to legally dissolve that relationship like a divorce if you don't want to continue to be partners. So I think if you are thinking, wow, I have this great big idea, but I don't know how to see it through, or I have so many ideas, I don't know where to focus. Maybe you need to hire a business coach or a business strategist or both and partner with them. They're not going to own half your business. They're not going to tell you what to do. You won't have to legally divorce them if you no longer want to work together. A business strategist or coach might be an excellent alternative to a business partner. Now, what Jensina Dyer found after 3 years of feeling like her partner was her boss, she decided to walk away from that business, even though it was successful, even though it was profitable, even though she got to see and experience some of her vision executed. What followed was 6 years of being stuck, buying courses, enrolling in group coaching programs, and continuing to fantasize about how her business could look. Jensina was one of the clients that I was most impressed with because in the 12 weeks we worked together, she actually implemented every single week. And she now has, as a result of our work together, she now has a roadmap for where to go next and the belief that she can do it on her own. How does a visionary become an implementer? Well, I think it takes 3 things. 3 things that you could enter into a business partnership to acquire if you want to give up half the ownership of your business. But if you decide to hire a trusted advisor, a consultant, a strategist, a coach, or someone who has a combination of skills, What they provide for you is, first of all, objective feedback. It is so hard to get out of your own head, especially when you're a creative. There's a lot going on in there. Trust me, I know. And also, we become attached to our ideas. We become attached to our creative visions. It's kind of like I call them my idea children, right? I have them, they're mine, I'm attached to them. And when you're attached to anything, you don't have objectivity about it. You can't. There's inherent bias that comes with attachment. So, your ability to recognize the strengths of that idea, the weaknesses of that idea, the inherent flaws and limitations of that idea, the obstacles and challenges you're going to encounter while developing that idea, the actual market value of that idea, it's really hard to figure that out on your own. Really hard. Because it's your baby. It's your idea baby. Now, when you hire someone else who can assess the market, who can assess your competitors, who can assess the strengths of your particular way of offering that, they can give you objective feedback. That's invaluable. Sometimes people don't want to be confronted by objective feedback. They would rather just fantasize about that and think, this could be so awesome. I think that's painful, personally. I used to be very fond of my own ability to generate one creative idea after the next. But you know what I realized? That just having the ability to be a creative visionary, just having that be part of your makeup, part of your DNA, your inherent gifts, that has zero value. It really has zero value because value is an energetic exchange. Value is when you can develop that idea into a product or service, offer it to people in the marketplace, and have them give you money for it. That's an exchange of value. It's not an asset when it's in your head. It's only an asset when you've developed it, offered it to people for sale, and they have bought it from you. So that energetic exchange of value for value is what validates that idea. As long as it remains in your head, I just call that idea fondling. And I used to do it so much for years, decades even. I didn't feel obligated to implement those creative ideas because I just really enjoyed having them. And I also indulged in a fantasy that I would continue to have them and that I could act on them whenever I wanted. If you have heard me more than once, you have heard me say all behavior is habit forming. So the habit I formed was simply having creative ideas, fantasizing about them, and doing nothing with them. That became the habit. And as the years went by and I saw other people who had similar ideas implement them, become known for them, be paid for them, I felt envious. I felt resentful, but I also felt ashamed because that could have been me. That could have been me. What was the holding? What held me back? One, I didn't want to choose. I didn't want to pick and stick because that felt limiting to me. Two, I didn't trust myself to be able to see something all the way through because I thought at some point I'll get bored or it'll get hard or I'll fall in love with another idea and just drop this one like a hot potato. Not like I didn't have history, okay? And three, in terms of my identity, I did not see myself as an implementer. All of these things were also true of Jensina Dyer. She enjoyed having the creative ideas and being infatuated with the vision for her company, she enjoyed it. It is enjoyable. In fact, it reminds me of a research study that I read that said that people get as much satisfaction out of planning a vacation as they do out of actually taking one. That hit me hard because I realized that I was enjoying having all my creative business ideas so much that I really didn't feel like I needed to implement them. I already got the satisfaction of simply having them. But of course, there's no energetic exchange. I never made any money off of ideas that just took up residence in my head. And more importantly, I didn't serve people who needed the benefit of those ideas. So I didn't want to constrain myself. I didn't want to pick and stick. 2, I didn't believe that I could see something through without getting bored or distracted or giving up. And 3, I did not have an identity of an implementer. It was quite amazing to me that Jensina Dyer and I, in working together for just 12 weeks, were able to move the needle for her in all of those areas. Am I a magician? Am I a sorceress? Did I make a deal with the devil where I can instantly transform someone's mindset, skill set, and business? Of course not. But I could apply the gift of objectivity and look at her business in a way that she simply couldn't because she's too close to it. 2, I do have a gift for making the complex simple. I also have a gift for making the simple complex, but I do not utilize that with my clients. And I could easily envision the roadmap and how to get her where she wanted to go. She just knew where she was and where she wanted to be. She didn't know the path she needed to follow. She knew she didn't want a partner, but she knew she needed something beyond courses and huge group coaching programs. So working with me one-on-one, we were able to identify the path, starting with the end goal and reverse engineering it. We also mapped out the timelines, the strategic hires, what kind of investments she needed to make in her business and when, and how to know when it was time to move to the next phase. Her creative vision for her business began with her being an excellent lash technician, solo operator, one-person business. Her vision was to be able to have several locations, several technicians working for her in each location, her no longer providing direct service, but moving into the position of CEO. And once the service pillar was well developed and mapped out and profitable, that would fund the next phase of her business. Phase 2 is education. She didn't just want to employ lash technicians. She wanted to help people develop the same kind of business that she had, thereby providing opportunities for self-employment and leadership development to other women like herself. Once the 2 phases are implemented, phase 3 is products. Jensina, through her background as an ophthalmic tech, really understands the safety issues of working around the eyes far better than most people in her industry. And she already has some excellent ideas for products, including adhesives and also the specific lashes themselves that will be the standard for safe practice in the future. The path is clear. She is an implementer. What she needed to go from creative visionary to implementer was somebody who understands how the creative mind works someone who understands how the busy brain operates and how easily we get distracted and frustrated and bored, how our perfectionism, our procrastination, our second guessing interfere with our ability to move forward. And she got a step-by-step roadmap that will take her exactly where she wants to go. She didn't need to give up half her business ownership for that. She simply needed to hire and work with the right person at the right time. And that was me. When she gets to the second phase of her business, we will work together again. And then for the third phase, not continuously for years and years. It's not necessary. She knows what to do. When she hits another plateau, we will re-engage, probably for another 12 weeks. So I wanted to take this opportunity to share with those of you who see themselves as creatives, who just simply can't imagine that they could take one idea all the way through or sort through their many creative ideas and decide which one to make a reality. I hope that this has been helpful to you. If you have a biz bestie, a friend, or someone close to you who struggles with this very thing, please do share this video with them. It is available on YouTube, LinkedIn, and my Facebook business page. I'm Coach Diane Wingert, and if you like what I have to say and how I say it, be sure you check out the Driven Woman Entrepreneur podcast for more stories like Jan's. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next week.